Hi everybody, it's Doug. We looked at my original open on the Valyrian set some time ago. This is the Valyrian from Lock Tools, and I did promise that I was going to come back and do a follow-up video, so this is it. Basically, I've now had a month or so to live with this, to work with it, and to get a good feel for the whole set and how it works for me. I guess just to get the formalities out of the way, first of all, I guess I'll start by saying, if you don't feel like watching the whole video, yes, love the set. The case, first of all, is well made. There's not a lot to say about it. It's durable, well made, love it. It's hard to screw up a case, although I've seen some pretty bad ones out there. Pry bars. So the pry bars, great job including the 50 thousandths. I really, it took me a while to realize as a picker that I needed that 50 thousandths. I do wish there was something a little bit in between that when you got to the smaller ones. I feel like I have a 40, and I think these go down to 35 and less. Either way, can't have everything. Great choices here. Can't go wrong with top of keyway. Bottom of keyway, same thing, and have not used either of these because I have my own tensioners that I'm used to using, but they did a great job, especially going with the narrowed down one here so that that's going to fit into the smaller keyways. I've already got a wiper that I've adjusted that I made myself that does the same thing. Now, let's talk about the pieces themselves. First of all, you're going to notice I went with shrink tube on everything, and I think I started without any shrink tube. Immediately realized I was going to need it, and I worked for a while with one layer of shrink tube. Came to decide that that's not going to be enough. You can't see it anymore, but basically I did get my old newbie pickers blister back. That's gone now because what I ended up doing was a second layer. You can see I've got two layers on the ones that I use the most, and that does seem to work. I had tried taking the boots off of my southward and tried one of those. It's just a tiny bit too big. There's just a little bit too much in there for it to fit into one of those southward boots. So either way, let's talk about the metal. The metal I love. It is great quality. I've been fond of the Peterson metal, stands up to anything. And my first set and even a follow-up set, I had bought southward. Those things, very durable. They put up with a lot. I am not sponsored by anybody. I have no financial skin in any of this game. Yes, you see sparrows down here simply because I really like their pinning mat. But while I do use Sparrow's picks, and I must say I'm addicted to their offset hybrid. It really does get me out of a lot of situations. But when it comes to the metal on Sparrows, I feel like, at least in the 25 thousandths that I've dealt with, they feel brittle and they don't feel like they kind of flex when you want them to. I also, without going off on too far of a tangent, I had been using these I hate to even mention this, the night shift ones, or the dark shift rather. And what they have is a knurled handle here, a grip right there on all of these. The problem I found, only after breaking 3 separate picks, was that knurling, and again, I love southward, but the knurling on there went right across here, and it actually acted like a perforation right at that spot, making it very easy to break. So what I ended up doing, and sorry for the blurriness, what I ended up doing was just taking a file and taking the knurling down. Again, that perforation there, I don't have a good example to show you, but that perforation actually, it almost looks like the top of a chip bag. It makes it very, very easy to break at that spot. Now, aside from that, coming back to here, this metal has the right amount of flex. So it's going to bend on you when, in a good way. It's going to flex with you as you try to jimmy in that opening, in that keyway. And it's going to still stand up to a lot. I haven't seen any signs of bending on these things. Love that. And I love that they put up with a lot. That said, though, I got to say that the set lacks a bully pick, is what I'm thinking of saying. When I'm picking something like an 80 Ti-50 titanium, that needs a lot of pushing. And I almost always end up going to my Southord diamond, my half diamond. This thing gives me that amount of push and pressure that I need to actually set some of those tougher pins. The other thing is that I've actually, in my testing of these, there were times where I was picking for quite a while, not getting in, and then realized I needed to go to something with a little bit more oomph and switch to, let's say, my good old Peterson gem in 25,000s, and that thing just, I've called it the battleship metal. It goes through anything. So sometimes when you can't get an open, you have to go with something that has a little more oomph to it. Going back to this, though, love the metal, love these, and they are really almost meant to be for more subtle and, sorry about the bump there, more subtle and, I guess I want to call it more finessed picking jobs. So, running through how I use these, because I don't want to bore the heck out of you guys. Simply put, though, loved most of these in the set. The L-Rake and Bogota, both of these things do exactly what they're expected to do. The City L-Rake and the Bogota do give you that raking fashion. And you may recall when I refurbished the WB lock, the Wilson Bohannon, both of these were great at raking that one open. Did a good job. The Nessie specialty. I'm not a raker. I really, I feel that if I get too rake oriented, I'm going to get lazy and I'm not going to be a good SPP anymore. So Nessie, I love. You do remember I actually used this I think I actually used it the day I opened this pack, and I've used it since. Great. And you flip it upside down and you've got your regular single pin pick there too. Love the concept of it. Love the expertise that went into that beautiful one. The snake, this is kind of an interesting one too. It has a little bit more of a point type of a top than a standard snake rake. I've got a couple of sets came with snake rakes. This is the one that's almost like a mini Bogota and allowed me to zip. You'll remember that I did a Quick Pick Thursday and used this to quickly zip open a wafer lock. Moving across to these. Now, lots of hooks here. And you can almost, if you look closely, you can see the ones that I double the insulation on, the shrink tube, because those are the ones that I kept on using. And let's start with this one here. I was actually found myself pretty impressed with this one, and then I ended up watching Average Picker's review where he went kind of all out and said this thing is almost magical, and it is. Don't know what to call it, but this is a really nice hook. It's shallow. It reminds me a lot of, this is the Sparrows, which I use a lot. And again, I have nothing against Sparrows, so I do use this one. I think it's the Attila, something like that. But this one does the job, does it quite well. And I love the concept that they've got that little dip right before the hook. So you've got the strength in the handle, in the shank, and then you've got clearance there for getting under those other pins to get to the one behind. Love this one, and I will tell you, while this set didn't suddenly change me into, oh my God, best picker in the world, it did get me into a couple of locks that I couldn't get into before, and this one was part of it. The other thing that I found, and I hope this doesn't get lost in all of my chatter, but an important thing, this is the first set where I found myself switching picks partway through. And what I mean by that is normally I'll look and say, okay, this one's going to be a gem, Peterson gem, and I'll use the Peterson gem all the way to the end. With this one, I actually found that I would start with, let's say, this, and then once I got into my false set, I would finish up with the short hook. And this one actually is another favorite of mine. This one is their equivalent of a short hook, and I gotta say, I still do have need for a more robust, solid hook. But this thing, the way that it hooks up, it gives me a real solid pressure on those individual pins. I don't feel like I'm just bending the shank. I'm actually pushing right up on the pin with that one. And this one is another one that actually got me out of some locks that I couldn't finish on my own. So switching it up, also very important. And then right down the middle was this one. This one was when I have to go deeper, and I needed that tiny little point to get right on the pin, grab it, and put that pressure up. You'll notice I didn't double wrap this one or this one. And basically, worse yet, I didn't even bother wrapping this one. This one, I think, is what you'd call a postal hook. I don't even have a lock that's going to work in, but I believe that over in merry old England, this one has its role. So yeah, this one and this one and this one, they were all kind of not of very good use to me. But again, that's just my picking style. This one I really wanted to like. I really wanted to jump on because I think that's the Tepane teardrop. And what it has is it widens out and it has a kind of a flat tip at the end. I have to revisit this and try to make use of it. But while the tip is exactly what I wanted, the hook was a little too deep for most of the locks. I couldn't even get into most of the keyways. Really, really wanted to like that one. Going over here, this one's kind of an interesting one. It's actually a mini half diamond. It's got the narrower shank, gives you the action of the half diamond, and I do use it when I need to kind of brush across the pins and try to snap them down from the front. Did help me get started. Never finished a lock for me, but again, I don't know if I would have gotten started without that. And let's talk about this one. Now, I have been a huge fan of the DeForest Diamond as a pick since the very beginning. And as a result, for example, I got myself a DeForest Diamond from Southord in 18,000s. Or something close to that. This is my workhorse. I use this quite a lot. This is what gets me through like American locks and like an American 1100, American 5200, and very often some of those other tighter locks that I've been in trouble getting into. I really wanted to like this pick. I really wanted to use it a lot. Unfortunately, it is really too much. Look at how much more aggressive the DeForest Diamond is than just my standard. And again, it's hard for me to line this up for you to totally see, but you could see that the DeForest goes a bit further up. And as a result, I at times felt like I was trying to use a crowbar just to get into some of these keyways. Yes, It did work. I definitely got some opens with this one, but if I could change anything, I would say this thing needs, I don't know, a redesign to be a little bit more subtle, a little bit more nuanced, and maybe doesn't have it shouldn't have all that incline. All around, ordered the set, waited I think about 10 days for it to arrive. With shipping and with exchange, I think it ended up costing me like $75 all total. Is this a great beginner set? Not recommended. And that's mostly because I'm very conservative. If you're a beginner, number one, you need something that's going to stand up to a lot of beating and that you're not going to cry about if you do break a pick. And something that's going to actually get into those locks for you. Basically, if you're a very rank beginner and you need to get your first set, I always say, get a Sparrow's Tuxedo, get yourself a Southward MPXS or PXS, I should say, 14, something like that, where you're going to spend $20, $25 at most just to see if you're getting good at it. And those are going to serve you quite well. But once you're ready to step up, I do recommend this set. I do think this is going to take you much further in. And it gave me experience with a bunch of hooks that I didn't think were going to be really useful, but ended up being so. So love the set all around. That's my review on this. And I see it's 16 lousy minutes, Jeebus. That is my long ramble. And if you just fast forwarded to the end because you got tired of me whining and complaining, great set. Love the steel. Definitely double shrink sleeve or do your marine grade shrink sleeve to make sure to protect your fingers on these things. I'm not one of those types that finishes the steel, that goes and takes out the mirror finish sandpaper, but these were definitely ready to go right out of the package and worked well for me. So thumbs up on this one. I definitely plan to go back to Law Lock Tools for some of their narrower stock picks. I'll probably end up wanting like this one and probably another one of the hooks in the thinner steel. And I'll be interested to see how that goes. Plus, I kind of like their cool, fancy handles that they offer, the double sandwich handles. So there we go. Thanks, everybody, for all of your time. Thanks for listening. Hopefully, if you were thinking about the Valyrian set, now would be your chance to continue if you were uncertain about it. To this day, since I'm not that big of a watcher of Game of Thrones, I looked around and I honestly cannot find anywhere on the internet that tells the proper pronunciation. I can't imagine it's Valyrian, but Valyrian, why throw the Y in there if that's the case? So it's somewhere in between there. Maybe somebody will help me out in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Take care.